Hey everyone, great to be back with you all again. If you've ever seen my videos on Commander Keen or Dangerous Dave before, then you'll recall that I talked about the concept of parallax scrolling in video games. This is when a game's background, or layers of a background, move at a slower speed than what you see going on in the foreground or the front. This gives the game more of an immersive quality and makes the player feel like the game has even more depth to it as a result. And although Dangerous Dave and Commander Keen were extremely important parts of gaming history, they were not, in fact, the first games to be credited with using this feature. While the game Jump Bug by Hoei Corporation was one of the first games to ever use it, albeit in a somewhat limited way, Moon Patrol was credited as one of the first titles to take full advantage of it, making it quite an impressive feat for its time. But how does it feel to play now? Does it live up to its legacy? Strap in, and we'll see just how well Moon Patrol's original arcade version holds up today. Developed by IREM Software Engineering and released for arcades in 1985, Moon Patrol is a 2D action-adventure game with continuous scrolling movement. The player has to control a moon buggy through various obstacles including rocks, craters, and mines while taking out aliens and their ships, which typically come from above, and trying to reach the end of each course. The game was developed by Takashi Nishiyama. If you're a fan of fighting games, then you've likely heard of him before, as he would go on to help create the Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, and King of Fighters franchises for both Capcom and SNK. Yes, you heard that right. Fighting games, beat-em-up games, and their communities owe pretty much everything to Nishiyama and his creativity. Oh, and on top of all that, he also produced the very first Mega Man game. I could go on forever about the impact that this man had on the gaming world, but we're here to talk about one specific title of his here, as I believe its impact to be equally as important. Yes, before Takashi would go on to change the entire gaming landscape with his fighting games and other franchises, he would develop his very first game, Moon Patrol. And although it didn't start an entirely different genre like Nishiyama's other projects, Moon Patrol did help to revolutionize gaming's visual elements. By causing 3 separate layers to move at 3 different speeds in the background, it left the player feeling more immersed in the world around them. We may take this form of game design for granted now, but at the time, this seemingly small addition was everything to the gaming landscape. Your controls are simple to learn, but surprisingly tricky to master. While your moon buggy automatically moves forward, you can slow or speed it up using left and right, while your shoot button will fire shots both in front of you and above you at the same time. This comes in handy as you won't have to stop and think about which direction to fire in or which button to press while enemies are coming at you from all sides. It's even got a caution meter, alerting you of what levels the enemies will be emerging from. You can also jump to avoid obstacles, or if you're like me, use it to get a better shot at enemies above you, who seem to go down easier the closer you are to them. Your jump distance is also affected by the speed you're going at, so it's a good idea not to run into danger too quickly if you don't already know what's up ahead. The game is divided into 2 courses, the beginner course and the champion course, which you go to immediately after completing the first one. Each course has a total of 26 checkpoints divided by the letters of the English alphabet. After moving through 5 checkpoints, you reach sort of a break in the stage where you're given a score based on the enemies destroyed, lives remaining, and time remaining if you manage to move fast enough. After finishing each breakpoint, you start from the last checkpoint reached as displayed on your meter up top, and see a new moving background displayed for each of these. These make the game feel more like you're playing 5 separate stages per course, and it's honestly quite convincing. Each section tends to have a specific focus to it, whether it's for jumping over obstacles like mines with extreme precision, facing off with ships coming from all sides, or even a fusion of both. There's other little details to pay attention to, like how these enemies here can fire bombs at you, and even create a small dune in the ground where it landed that will destroy your buggy. After completing the beginner course, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the champion course is simply going to be a harder version of the same thing, but I'm happy to say that no, it's not like that at all. Not only does the course have a completely different setup with much more being thrown at you at once, you're even put up against new enemies and obstacles that were not present in the original beginner course. You'll need a completely different set of strategies to get past them all. One of my favorite enemies ended up being this one here, which starts out behind you until picking the right moment to charge forward. Dodging this requires you to jump over them as they're charging at you, and firing immediately after you landed behind them. There's also new obstacles like these boulders that roll at you extremely fast and give you far less room for error. This course also puts your mastery of jumping to the test, as the mines in this section are extremely close together and require very precise timing to get around. Honestly, it's harder than it looks here. Once you finally conquer the terrain once more and finish the champion course, you're put back at the beginning of the champion course again, and thrown into an infinite loop until you run out of lives, or quarters. I have to say I was impressed with this title for quite a few reasons. For one, its visuals are quite pleasant to look at, especially in motion. Besides the background scrolling techniques being implemented here, there's all kinds of little effects going on with the moon buggy as well. While moving up and down small hills, you can actually see the wheels bouncing up and down too, giving off even more of a sense of immersion to the player. Seeing the wheels bounce away every time your buggy gets destroyed is also a nice touch. Allowing your buggy to speed up and slow down is also a brilliant choice, as it causes the player to think more about whether they want to speed through the stages for their time bonuses and risk getting destroyed more often, or lay back to ensure survival without worrying about the bonuses. This ability also alters the way your buggy jumps, causing it to shoot much farther forward if you're already speeding up while doing it, and this becomes much more crucial in the champion course. Okay, so we've established that it looks great for its time and still holds up surprisingly well, but are there any flaws? Well, a few, though nothing that I'd call major. Seeing as this is an arcade game, it's not exactly known for its great length. While you can technically play this quote-unquote forever, it doesn't change the fact that there are only 2 courses to go through. I would have easily preferred one more course at the very least, as I felt the difficulty spike between the beginner course and champion course was surprisingly large and a little off-putting for that reason. If there had been a middle ground stage to balance it out, I don't think I would have seen this as an issue. Outside of this though, I don't see any major issue that would prevent someone from enjoying this game. Does the gameplay hold up well? Well, do people still enjoy playing all of the endless runner games on their smartphones? The answer to both of these questions is yes, it still holds up great. In fact, I'd argue this title is still just as fun and compelling as the most popular endless runner games on mobile, just with less levels to back it up due to the technical constraints of the time. And that's a huge accomplishment in my eyes. So yes, it may not take away too much of your time if practicing and improving on high scores don't mean much to you, but I think this is still a title worth experiencing. The variety of enemies and other challenges is surprisingly huge and frantic in the best of ways, and its influence on the 2D landscape in gaming cannot be understated. It's surprisingly fun to pick up and play, even now, with its unique setup, various obstacles, and addicting score system. While fighting games will always be Nishiyama's legacy, and understandably so, I believe this title deserves just as much of a mention. Check it out if you can. And that's gonna do it for this video! Thank you all so much for watching! Have you played this game before yourself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're feeling generous, please consider supporting my Patreon, where awesome people like Brandon, Thomas, Cielo, and Jonathan all help to keep this channel going. Until next time!